It's a great day.
We're doing awesome. We're adults over here. Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Is This? A Bojack podcast. The podcast described by those on Reddit as there's a lot of these out there already. Shout out to Bojack Horseman. That's my favorite other one. I'm one of your hosts, serial muffin binge eater Dan Carlin. Who do I have with me today?
I'm Ariana. That's the last box. I had dibs on them. And this is our episode by episode recap of Bojack Horseman. This go around, we are exploring season 1, episode 2. Bojack hates the troops.
Dibs doesn't count if you didn't put it in the card, Ari. That's my. I'm sorry. I'm Team Bojack on this one. How uh, how are you today? How has life been since episode one?
Life has been great. I heard the first episode. I was super excited because I listened to it while like doing other things, and it was really entertaining while I was doing it. And I think that's the level of an interesting, fun podcast. Other than that, I've been thinking about Bojack, and I watched the second episode once, and I think I'm now qualified to talk about it. How about you? How have you been?
Watching it once does count as qualified in the internet universe. I wholeheartedly agree with you. I am good. Working too much, sleeping too little. America over here, but all is well. All is well. I got a roof and food. I almost bought muffins after on the way home after dropping my kids off at school. It would have been thematically appropriate, but like I wound up getting a cheese Danish because I have to be different.
I think it's for the best. A whole tin of muffins would not be good for anybody. I bought a whole. Do you guys have whippets where you are? Like not the
With it,
drug, but the snack.
that was my follow up question, and I don't think so. What
Okay.
enlighten me?
Well, we have this thing called whippets, which are basically marshmallow and jam in a cookie covered in chocolate. And the grocery store tricked me that they were on sale recently. They weren't. They just put a big sign on them that convinced me they were. And I'm like, okay, I'll buy them, whatever. And then I ate the whole thing. And then watching the episode that we were going to talk about, where BoJack goes to eat all his muffins, I felt seen and attacked. So like I feel like I also thematically prepared unintentionally by eating entirely too many whippets.
That is completely understandable. That does sound amazing. I bet we have them here, and I've just never seeked them out. I will follow up with you privately about this.
Do you have wagon
Uh,
wheels?
Wet. Oh, okay. I've
The,
always just kind of read those as like remixed Oreos.
they're sisters to whippets. They're like really soft. The cookies are soft. I don't eat them very much, but again,
The
I got suckered.
the last time I had those was when I was in elementary school. We would have market day, I think like once a month. And it was just these terrible, but, admittedly local and independent baked goods and breads. And they would sell them out of our elementary school cafeteria like once a month. And my parents would buy them to be good Samaritans, and they would die a slow, probably just death in our basement freezer. So I bet if they didn't sell the house like 5 years ago, they would still be in that freezer.
I was gonna say that'd be a fun time capsule to see like what if they really were as bad as you thought they were.
I have a Wheaties box with Michael Jordan on the front from 1997. And I bought it from the store when they were being sold. And it was like during the Chicago Bulls second three-peat. And it isn't like on display in my house, but I still have it. And the box is in shitty enough condition where I don't think I could ever sell it to a collector. And just to cut my losses, I'm wholeheartedly tempted to just open the box and just view whatever is in there, but I'm also terrified to do so.
I think it's entirely worth the experiment if you filmed it. I found recently the most disgusting side of eBay, which is the 30-year-old pasta side of eBay. Very similar to what we're
Awesome.
talking about. People are saving like 1997 animated Batman pasta. My dad did a commercial for Pokemon pasta. I don't know if you guys had it, but we had Pokemon pasta. My dad like art directed the
Ooh.
commercial for it, and we like have been trying to find it. And there's this one guy that's trying to sell a can of Charizard Pokemon pasta for $1,000 online. And a little part of me is like, do I just buy the cheaper version, like the Batman pasta, and then eat it to see if it's any good? And then I remember that I have colitis and I probably shouldn't do that. But I'm like very tempted to eat the 30-year-old pasta.
I'm not laughing at your colitis, by the way. I'm laughing at how relatable this is. Uh, yeah, like I don't think we had Pokemon pasta, but I mean it's Charizard pasta. You know, the Pokemon card of Charizard went for about that much. Like if you got the holographic one, that went for about that much like 30 years ago.
So maybe they're just trying to reflect that card because the pasta's been on there for like I'm gonna say like 5 years at least. Like nobody's bought it, and he has not lowered the price. My goal is to try to get him down, but I also don't want to ruin the lore of the old pasta on eBay. Anyway, so that's the most disgusting side of eBay, and also, uh, possibly the most interesting. To see if food back then is still edible, especially with the '90s preservatives they had going on.
Oh man, that's the shit that raised us, Ari. That's the shit that raised us. Uh, so getting into the episode, I guess I'm just gonna start each one off. Like, what did you think after this viewing? Like, what was your overall takeaway?
I remember watching the show and just feeling like it was like when I was watching this episode as like a millionth time viewer, it's interesting to see how it's completely like again, I know this I feel like the first season is just going to be us being like, "Wow, it's different than the first," or it's
Hmm.
different than the rest or like it's the same as the rest. But like I remember I watched this episode feeling like, "Oh wow, this show really could have taken like a different turn." Like this could have really just been like an episodic show where every week Bojack's in a new weird twisted little mess, and I'm very grateful that it didn't turn out that way. I enjoyed the episode, but like a little part of the back of my brain was like, oh Jesus, it really could have just been like a more serious like Family Guy. There were a lot less like pop-up gags in this one, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah,
Uh but that was like my initial like big thought while I was watching this episode. Nothing too in-depth, but my big thought. What about you?
yeah, I'm kind of on board with you. The lack of cutaways in the second episode in comparison to the first episode really just lends to my Atlanta pilot Trojan horse theory. Yeah, I don't think they completely had the tone and the characters completely down, but I think they knew the pilot wasn't where they wanted to keep it, and I kind of admire that. Um, I mean, I'm gonna go into my biggest topic that I texted you about the other day. So the first time I watched this was in 2021 or 2022. Point being, Biden was elected president by that point, and we thought the Trump era was more or less over, save for some cleanup we had to do in the following years. And so I don't think this hit me the first time I saw it. But it's funny watching this episode that took place in 2014 in the climate we are in now. And guys, I promise not to get into politics in every episode. Matter of fact, I promise to avoid it at all costs, but it's very relevant here. The the focus on patriotism and just the more myopic view of patriotism good, anti-patriotism bad, that stemmed from Bojack making an offhand remark, which about there are probably some troops that are assholes, which, for the record, I don't agree with the way he said it, but I do agree with the sentiment. Um, it's daunting now, especially because they were on the in-universe MSNBC. So you would think Rachel Maddow was like on board for the Bojack attacks. And in this day now, where give it a few years and the American flag, it might be looked at akin to certain other flags and symbols that represent hate and division. It's just daunting. Where I remember thinking we had it bad in the Bush administration, and man, I would kill for those days now. And so it's such a reflection of what I feel like we lost.
It's I was talking about this recently after you texted it to me with my partner, and we were talking about how crazy it was that like 9/11 was 2001, so 10 years after that would be 2011, which would be 3 years before this episode of Bojack Horseman came out. So it was still kind of within the post 9/11 zeitgeist. And I remember watching this episode for the first time back when it came out. I forget the exact years, like 2011, 2013, 2014. I remember watching it for the first time and being like, oh my God, Bojack's saying the thing that I am thinking. And then everyone calls me a mean person for it. Like, this is crazy. Like the idea that just because you've taken on a noble position doesn't mean you're a noble person.
Yeah.
Especially since like I was young, but I was very much within like the politically engaged sphere with Afghanistan and Iraq. And thinking like I saw the Michael Moore documentaries and was like, yeah, just because they're soldiers doesn't mean they're good people. It seems like a lot of them are just young kids. And just because
Yeah.
as soon as you put a gun in somebody's hand, it actually gives them more of a license to be a jerk because you give them power. And that wasn't really talked about. And it's really interesting now how like patriotism and the idea of like people being in these like inherently powerful positions, like they don't have power, but you understand,
Yeah.
is actually now more like it's looked at more aggressively, especially with I think the like the very anti-cop sentiment that's going around now. And I don't know if they're the same, but in my head they're similar. I don't know anybody who's like shit talking the troops to the extent that we're like criticizing the police, but I think in my head it's a very similar motif, if that's a thing.
Yeah, and especially because the anti-cop sentiment has been a popular saying that, since the days of NWA, when neither of us were alive at that point. So that was far from new. I don't know. So I have kind of a personal grievance slash I have a personal grievance with the backlash that Bojack faced because okay, so my middle school and high school bully, one of them, not the only one, but the primary one, immediately went to the army as soon as we graduated high school in 2005. And I think that was my exact reaction when I found out. It's like, oh, great, great. Give the biggest asshole I know access to firearms. No, what could possibly go wrong? And I don't know if I agree with Bojack because, like, I think of that dude, but yeah, I feel like it's a more reasonable take in 2025.
I think there's I don't think I think going into the military is it's not like it's not honorable, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. Like I think that the fact that people are choosing to give their lives is like I feel like I'm the people defending the statement. People choosing to give to potentially give their lives is like a crazy brave thing. The reason why they're thrown into it is like there's a completely different discussion on that, like why people choose to go in. Is it because they actually care, or is it because they like the idea of having that power, or are they just like they have nothing else to do, or they have no other prospects, or like they're in a really uncomfortable financial situation. Like there's so many different variables that factor into that, and just saying that because people choose to go into it means they're good is like such a blanket. It's so it bothers me so much because it's again it's this lack of nuance. So like well I respect the choice to do it. I I would never automatically assume. And I think it's another example of like the extremes that the news cycle goes through. I feel like I responded I forgot where I was going with this. I was going somewhere. I don't want to look like I'm completely anti-troop. Like I'm pro people, but I think the
I
idea of
think I
like
know what you're saying. It's all about the intentionality of the person. And when you boil a specific position down to a complete groupthink, you're kind of getting rid of the nuance. And then when you look at that or anything in general as any kind of profession as good or bad, you're kind of removing the humanity.
and I think it's interesting that Neil McBeal, the Navy SEAL, kind of did him to himself because, like, he was never going to bring up the fact that he was an army man, except for when he decided to attack Bojack, because that was his way into like saying that Bojack stole muffins from a guy is nothing, but like saying that Bojack stole muffins from a Navy SEAL who didn't immediately advertise that he was a Navy SEAL, like takes away Bojack's ability to respond to the apparently important context of the situation. So it's interesting how we're all how everyone was defending the military and defending
Hmm.
these soldiers, but also they're using the like using the idea that people have this extreme opinion about it and this extreme positive opinion about the army to also use it as an attack thing, which was kind of happening at the time. Well, it's like you can't attack these jerks who are like putting bags over people's head in like these countries that they were in and like completely like torturing them
Yeah.
because they've chosen to do it. If anyone else did it, it would be horrible. But as soon as you put these people in a situation where like they're allowed to do it and we've given them the license to do it, now they're a hero.
Oh yeah. And when you go to like, let's go to the argument that Bojack had over the phone with MSNBC and the Navy SEAL. Bojack was kind of like he was when he wasn't in the right, he was at least self-aware. So I in the beginning, like I fully believe that if there's going to be a dib system at the grocery store and you're gonna go to the bathroom, put it in your cart. Leave your cart in front of the bathroom, go to the bathroom, come back. That is the generally agreed upon symbol of I am buying this, please don't take it. He left it on the shelf. He went to the bathroom. Bojack is not a mind reader. And Bojack was making all these good points, and Neil was just kind of crashing out, kind of near the middle of it, bringing up points that had nothing to do with it. And then even when he did have a gotcha on Bojack, and Bojack admitted to eating the entire box of muffins in the car, I give credit where it's due. He admitted why he ate the muffins. Low self-respect. Like it's weird, especially this early in the series. You're putting somebody with less self-awareness against Bojack, and now we're just like put in a position where we have to side with him. It
I,
This
it
is like when Kanye went on Alex Jones's show and we had to side with Alex Jones. Like there is no good option.
I think it's interesting that they did this because it's a point that I wrote down here. So at the beginning of the episode when Bojack's talking to like the hot girl in the bar and she's like being really like rude to him and he's like just because you have privilege doesn't mean you have the ability to be rude and you not realizing you're being horrible doesn't not make you horrible. So like that relates to everybody in the episode and like everybody in the series, but also I think it's interesting that again, I think a thing I brought up last time is like, why do people like Bojack? He's a dick from the start. But the
Yeah,
fact that he was self aware about him being a dick is interesting because that's why I think people like him, is because he's a jerk, but like he knows he's being a jerk. So, how much of a jerk can he be if he's aware that he's being a jerk? I I think it's just an interesting theme that goes through the show that as soon as somebody acknowledges they're a bad person, you automatically it's like their save the cat moment because it
yeah.
shows that they're like emotionally aware or like ethically aware or morally aware or whatever. It gives you leeway to do the things that they're doing.
Yeah, like there's a difference between being an asshole and being a total narcissist. And it's you kind of see that difference in the show. Speaking of Save the Cats, that's a good segue, if anything else. So we're going to this scene with Princess Carolyn, who they focus on less in this episode. I didn't put it together until you pointed out in the notes that the song is from Cats, mainly because I've never listened to the full musical, nor did I see the movie. But even without that information, I agree with Ben Affleck and Jersey Girl that it is the second worst thing to ever happen in New York City.
I saw Cats. So context. I've hated things before Cats. I watched Cats when I was like 14. Why am I saying Cats like that? I saw Cats when I was 14, and I remember it being the first thing that I remember hating. Like it was the first thing that like clicked in my brain. It's like, wow, that was legitimately terrible as I was watching it. I saw it as an actual theater production in my local theater. I don't know why my local
Oh,
theater was playing Cats. I don't know what the production was, like what production company was doing it, but they were playing Cats and I watched it and I thought it was the worst. And I remember nothing except for the song Memories. And I even then it made me hate Memories. And I used to like that song. But I didn't realize that Jellicle Cats was a song from Cats until I saw a TikTok of somebody just playing the song in a scene from Cats. And I was like, wow, that now makes sense why they're doing this bit with this annoying song. They didn't just make it up. And I hate it more and I love the bit more.
Do you remember? I don't know if you watched Hey Arnold when you were a kid,
I
but do you remember how the Cats parody Rats was like a running gag within the series?
No, I
And
didn't watch Hey Arnold.
oh man, so one of the main characters, Helga, I think this is the first appearance of it. She and her father go to see this musical, which is obviously a Cats parody, where it's people like in black leotards and rat ears and rat noses, and it keeps cutting back to Helga and her dad just being like, "Mike, this is the worst thing I've ever seen." And I think that formed my opinion on what it was. And then they play the gag like similarly a few more times throughout the series for continuity's sake. And so it just, I don't think I ever stood a chance with giving it a chance.
I'm it's so weird though because I love Phantom of the Opera, which is the same for people who don't know. It's the same guy who did Cats. I
Wow.
destroyed my Phantom of the Opera DVD because I watched it so many times that it got ruined just by me watching it like every day. Like it was bad, and it's so weird that Phantom of the Opera, this beautiful poetic thing where I can understand the lyrics when they're singing, has translated into this terrible, ugly thing that we then felt like it was so popular that we needed to make into a movie with James Corden, the biggest British
Ugh.
talk show host of the time. Like, oh, like I don't understand. I would love somebody to figure out, and I wish I would have done this before this. I would love somebody to figure out why we had a cultural like moment with Cats, why it's been going on for so long and why we even know the name. Because I'm sure Andrew Lloyd Webber has done several musicals that I do not remember, but Cats is apparently the one that we talk about along with Phantom, which deserves it.
Yeah, Phantom of the Opera definitely deserves it. I will give Andrew Lloyd Webber credit where it's due. But yeah, no, fuck Cats and fuck James Corden. We're just gonna start beefs on this podcast, and that's how we're gonna like gain publicity.
I already have one with, I think it's, who's the guy that did, I should know his name because apparently I'm a beef with him, but who's the guy who did Space Force and The Office? It was like Greg Shear or something?
Oh,
I'm looking
Greg
this up.
Daniels.
Greg Daniels is his name?
Yeah, yeah, he's currently working on the King of the Hill reboot.
Oh yeah. So I apparently have a mini thing with him because unbeknownst to me reviewed up. Oh, where'd you go? I'm alone. I wish I can continue this story, but when he comes back, I will not have. I will not have oh, he's back. Hello. I
There
was
we go.
talking.
Sorry about that.
You left me. What the hell? No. I apparently have like a small thing with Greg Daniels because I didn't realize that when I was doing it at the time, but I reviewed Space Force and I reviewed Upload at the same time. Like, because they came out at roughly the same time. I have two videos about how much I hate them both. And his
Oh
fans
yeah.
got so angry at me. Like, they're the most, like, at least the ones that commented on my video are the most like sexist, angry, violent people who have ever
God.
commented on my videos, minus the Grinch fans. But yeah,
I'm lukewarm on Greg Daniels. Like I enjoyed parts of The Office. I did. I think I just resented for how many people in our generation make liking The Office a whole personality trait. Uh, King of the Hill. I'm gonna check out the revival. I'm more of a Mike Judge fan, so like I'll check him out. Uh, but other than that, like I could care less whether or not Greg Daniels is putting out content. I will say though that he did write my favorite episode of The Simpsons, which is Lisa's wedding, which the future episode set in the far off year of 2010.
when did this? Why? I feel like I've seen it, but what year was this? Because I feel like
It
there's.
was season 5 or 6. It's one where like Lisa meets the Hugh Grant stand-in, and they almost get married, and then they
Yes,
don't.
I remember. I need to watch The Simpsons more. I used to love it, and then I stopped watching it, and now I forgot everything about it.
Is hands down my favorite episode of the series. It balances comedy and like human emotion perfectly, and I wish Greg Daniels stayed as a staff writer and not a showrunner.
See, I love The Office, and I don't want to say I made it my personality because that is cringy. I say I make BoJack my personality because it's a little
Hey,
bit more
that's
niche.
better.
There we go. I love Parks and Rec. It's great. I didn't know I like my theory is because shows that he does with other people tend to be good, and then shows where he produces it by himself tend to be not as good. So my theory is that he's good in a pair, but not necessarily
Yes.
individually. It's like Simon Pegg. Simon Pegg is good in a pair with Edgar Wright, and I'm not necessarily a fan of him outside of Edgar Wright stuff.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Same with what's my guy? Terry Winter, who was a writer on The Sopranos, and then he went to make that show Vinyl, which wound up being not very good as much as I wanted it to be good.
I have not seen Vinyl, and I love how Sopranos are going to be an ongoing bit or
I'm
like
gonna keep
ongoing
prodding
thing.
you until
You have to keep doing it. This is the minor theme through the show will be me eventually watching The Sopranos.
love it, love it. Oh man. So what else in this episode? I feel like this episode was like shorter than normal. Because I feel like there's less meat in this particular episode to talk to.
I
One thing I did appreciate was I don't think they gave the character a name, but the girl that Bojack had a fling with
Her
in the
name is
beginning,
she has a name. Oh no, I was
she
going
has
to
a name.
remember her name. I was going to remember her name. That's not really a point. I just feel like I needed to say that and I didn't do it. Just to show how
Okay.
bad I was. Go on. Her.
No, I loved her. I thought she was hilarious. She is one of those characters where you want to see what she has to say about whatever's happening for maybe one episode per season at the absolute most, but absolutely no more than that.
Well, she shows up again.
Does she?
Yeah, like later on when they're like at the end of the series. Now, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at the end of the series when they're talking about how terrible Bojack is to women, she like comes back. Like she's in it because she slept
Oh
with Bojack.
shit. You might be
Yeah.
right about that. Okay, we're gonna have to go back later on. But that's the one point in the episode where like I audibly laughed by myself and my dogs got confused. Was it's like he covered himself in sheets like the Taliban.
Which goes back to that your original point of like the post 9/11 environment.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's man, I'm like 15 years old and the world is my oyster and Obama's about to be elected and where it's just smooth sailing from here on out. We're gonna get free health care and you know, we're good. It's oh
It's a,
man, I hate where we are now.
it's a time capsule of a better time. The
Absolutely.
The line that got me, so every episode of BoJack so far, the 2 episodes we've seen, I have apparently adopted one line as part of my like just regular vernacular. So the first
Yes.
episode it was you don't respect me enough to have a baby with me. I say it once a week. And then I had a line here and I say it more than anybody else in this world says it, which is I chortled in rapturous glee. I say that too often. And again, not a nothing point here, but it's just the ongoing idea of there is always a line that's so good that I steal it, and this is something that I say enough that people are like, "It's a weird. You're being a little weird, Ariana." And I say, "You got to watch the episode." And no one listens to me.
I mean, that one at least has that one at least has the opportunities for you to turn it into a thing. You know, you don't respect me enough to have a baby with me. It's a great line, but it's also you need to be in a really depressing, really heavy argument in order to have it, which kind of limits its ability to become a catchphrase in pop culture that transcends the origination.
I
So
say it anytime someone
I think
bothers
you
me.
should.
just just start using this one more. Well, I say you don't respect me enough to have a baby with me, and when someone mildly bothers me in regular conversation, I need to know them well enough. I'm not like yelling at people on the street, but like when my partner and me argue about the fact that like he's not immediately taking the cup off the table when I want it, I say you don't respect me enough to have a baby with me, and it's off-putting. But that's where I'm at in
Uh,
life.
that's amazing. I mean, it's why I live alone, so no one can yell that at me. But maybe I should have someone yell that at me.
Well, you have a baby. You have two.
I mean, they're 10 and 11,
They're
and they're
babies.
bigger slobs than I am, so like they have no place.
It's the best time though. They're not angry. They're just like little bundles of joy. A baby's not really a bundle of joy. They're just there.
Yeah, yeah. One thing we seem to not completely agree upon was the dynamic between Butterscotch and Beatrix. Beatrice, excuse me. So we cut to a flashback. It's the first appearance of Beatrice and Butterscotch, and from my memory, like it seemed to nail down their dynamic and personality traits better than the pilot did with any of the main cast. I think they've kind of, as for the main cast in this episode, I think they got Todd down pretty well. I think Todd's basically where he's going to be. Him like gleefully finding out he has $80 in his account, which, man, that broke boy problems. I relate so hard to that. It's like thinking I have nothing. It's like, oh, I have $75. Dinner's on me today. But um, yeah, what was it that you thought was off about that scene in regards to the rest of the series?
So I thought their dynamic was correct between each other. I thought that, well, they obviously had the story down because at the end of the episode, Bojack's talking to Diane, and it's exactly what it's going to be, which makes sense. You have to figure out where your
Yeah.
characters are from to figure out where they're going, and like this is a huge part of the story. But the part that really got to me, that was like a little bit like just a hair off, is when Bojack gave his dad the Father's Day card, and it said "Daddy" or whatever, and it was a piece of shit because Bojack's a child, and the dad got angry at him for the laziness and like taking like the communist way out versus taking like the like a hardworking like a upstanding way where you're doing the work and you're making something great. And I think that they are still at this point, I feel like it's all speculative that they're still figuring out how he would react to things because you have the dynamic down, but they haven't like if this point was made in 3 seasons from now, I think that the dad would be angry that Bojack was competing with him to make something, that he was so proud to show
Ooh,
this work that he did, but the work was shit. So like the confidence of showing the work and being proud of something
okay,
enough to give to your dad would feel more like a competition for the dad who never showed his work to anybody. Like he had this novel
okay.
that he never let anyone read. So Bojack being so confident with this card would feel like kind of a threat. Like, oh, you think you're better than me because you made something in 2 seconds and you're just showing it to people?
Okay, you're completely right about that. I concede. The and like to your point, now that you brought all that up, Butterscotch, when he is introduced as a younger person in, I believe it's Time Zero, he's more of like the anti-authority, anti-establishment person, and so the like boomer hard work creates greatness views were, it was, that doesn't really align with him, at least when he was young. And when you see him in his more corporate job later on in the series, he's not so much upholding to those beliefs so much as resentful of his place in life. Because he seemed more happy at like the factory he was working at and the blue collar workers. And that's kind of where they really went downhill was he took that job. He became more unhappy than usual. He was uninspired. He was cheating on his wife, so on and so forth. So yeah, you're completely right about that.
Yeah, he was
Um,
angry. Like when he was doing like when she's like, "You got the job because of my dad." He's like, "Yeah, I took it because you had a baby." Like he was angry about the fact that she put him where he is to the point where now he's not a starving artist; he's just an artist.
exactly, exactly. Sidebar. Shout out to Wendy Malick, the voice actress for Beatrice, because I just finished season 2 of the Apple TV Plus show Shrinking, starring my God, my guy from I Love You Man and Harrison Ford and
I'm
Jason
so
Segel.
bad. Yes.
No, great. Shut your brain off type of show, completely unrealistic in the way that adults socialize with each other because we don't show up at each other's houses anymore. But she shows up in season 2 as a love interest to Harrison Ford's character. And man, you knew who that actress was like right away the second you heard her voice. And this isn't a knock against her performance because she was incredible. But man, that just sly passive aggression just carries with her in everything that she's in. And I love her for it.
It's so good. I remember watching Bojack for like I remember watching Bojack for the first time. Count 7 times I've said that. Wendy Malick, the first time I heard her was in Just Shoot Me, and I only knew her from Just Shoot Me. She was in Just Shoot Me, right? It's that?
I think so.
Okay, good enough. Let's say that it is that if it's not, again, another thing to tell me in the comments I'm wrong about.
Do
Um,
it.
she's in Just Shoot Me, I think. And I'm like, I don't really like her character in this. And then I saw her in Bojack, and I'm like, wow, I realize now her voice is super. The fact that I'm able to recognize it is great in this specific situation of her, where she loses herself in the character, but as her. And like,
Yes.
she's just so sly and she's so angry, but it's angry in a way that's kind of warm. It doesn't work for Owl House, the other show that she's in, because now all I hear is Beatrice. I think this show may have
Hmm.
ruined her for every other show because I just know her as this now. But like, oh, it's there's a wonderful warmth in her anger.
I have the same issue that you do, I think, but like to a greater degree, and it affects my willingness to watch something new or enjoy something new. I'm gonna put my Sopranos reference counter on. No, so like when that show ended, Edie Falco immediately started to star in Nurse Jackie, and I refused to watch it for years because it's like, no, she's Carmela Soprano. Like she can't be like a drug-addled nurse who lives in a modest apartment in New York. Like, no, she's like a spoiled mob wife. But like, man, her performance in that is better than it was on the first show. So it's a thing I got to get over.
I don't like watching new things. That's like, I think that partially
Mm.
that, like, I hate when someone's like, you gotta watch this. And I'm like, go back to the original things that I've got. But I'm with you. I don't like watching things where I know someone from it. Like, I don't like watching things where I'm like, I know you as this and I don't care to figure you out more than this. I'll just appreciate you in this capacity. For me, it's Zoe Deschanel. I like held on a New Girl forever because I just loved 500 Days of Summer so much. And I'm like, she's
Ooh,
Summer.
okay.
She will not be New Girl. And now I like New Girl. Uh, a lot, which I think we all do. But like, I can't believe I was gonna miss it because of 500 Days of Summer, a movie she's not really a character in.
She was. I mean, I knew her as the older sister in Almost Famous. Like that's how far back my Zoe Deschanel roots go, and the crazy girlfriend to Andy Botwin in Weeds.
You got it deeper references than I do. I got like maybe Elf. I saw Elf half a time, and I'm like, I think I remember her in that. But
You
like,
clearly had more friends growing up than I did, Ari.
I had less. I had a lot of my dad's influences, and if he was not watching Weeds, I was not watching Weeds.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah, that's a show you don't need to watch now because weed's illegal in that, and it's just too distracting now. I tried.
There's an episode of Daria. I don't know why I watched Daria for a long time. I was a teenager. I'm like, this is something I need to do. I watched Daria. Turns out I'm not into the hyper irony and like disassociation. But there's a episode of Daria where they got trapped on the top of this school when there was like a storm about to happen, and they had
The
no
the
way of
musical
getting people.
episode.
I remember nothing except for the fact that I was upset that they didn't have cell phones. I'm like, what do you mean? Call someone. Like, why is this an
Yeah,
episode?
absolutely. I mean, I saw a comedy routine about this recently, so this is not an original point on my part. Shout out to Josh Johnson, one of the most prolific comedians working today. But cell phones really did ruin the plot for like most things, just their very existence, especially like in action movies where, like, you can't have an intense phone conversation. It's just
I think they ruined the plot for movies where they like you watch the movie and you're like, why isn't there a phone here? I also think they ruined the plot for movies where they should have phones, where it's like,
yeah.
well, there's no phones because of this. I'm like, you shut your face. Why did we? I hate the fact that you had to write this in. Just pretend they don't exist. Just like have it not be a plot point that the phone isn't here, or just don't make the movie. It's such a minor gripe, but it gets me so angry.
Yeah, and you see how well reboots do, where most of the development is what if X character gets cell phone?
I was just about to say, what if Breakfast Club had cell phones?
Oh yeah,
There,
there you go.
it wouldn't be Breakfast Club. It just would
No,
be a
it would
bunch of kids
just
sitting
be
in
yeah, it would be a
a
static
room.
shot of people on their phones for. It would still be like 3 hours long.
Only a lot less interesting. A lot less interesting and a lot less disturbing. Maybe. I
Absolutely.
I watched Breakfast Club recently.
I love this conversation so much. I feel like we should probably
Yes,
touch
I'm
on the
so
few
sorry.
points we have. Oh no, don't be sorry. I'm loving this. I just don't want to. w- I feel like semi obligated to like talk about the subject matter occasionally, but it's not your fault. Let's see. What do
We're
we
figuring
have
out the
here?
dynamic. Oh, speaking of the dynamic, one of my points is actually never mind. It was
Yes.
about to be the dynamic between the parents, but that's not the thing I wanted to talk about. So what I want to talk about, and I think it would have tied back to the original talking point of Bojack having his opinion. So like, let's just pretend I originally talked about it then. But I think it's interesting that Bojack seems like this voice of reason in the show, being like, well, of course he's got reasons for why he thinks this about the troops, and like he's right, and like the way he's handling it is bad, but like he's right. Why is everyone disagreeing with him? And the thing is, we don't know anyone's opinion as a like out of the main characters. We don't know what they're actually thinking about this, but it's the fact that Bojack has made it everybody's problem that he thinks that
Yes.
way is like it's such a it's a fun little point because I realized later I'm like, why are people agreeing with him? They're not agreeing with him. They're just not like dicks enough to make it everybody else's problem, their thought process. Because it didn't need to be a problem. This was a problem
Yeah.
because Bojack felt the need to say how he felt. And because he is loud enough and he feels like he's the only one talking sense, again, we kind of like him more for it because he's saying what we're all feeling, but really he's a jerk. The guy who tells you his opinion in a way that like he's angry at you, even if you do agree with him, is the guy you don't want to be around.
It's the fact that he said it on the air in front of millions of people. Like I was completely on board with him, and I still agree with all of his points, but I would have said them privately after like my phone argument. What when Neil was crashing out, I would my response probably would have been, okay, well, thank you for your service, but number one, I didn't know about that. Number two, what does that have to do anything? This is what dibs at the grocery store is.
I feel like I would have been a lot more tactful than Bojack is was, and I probably would have. But I'm also I've made a small career for myself out of making like months worth of essays talking about why I'm right in arguments that I'm having with people in real life. A
There
lot
you
of my
go.
ideas of a lot of my videos come from places of people saying things to me that I don't agree with or I think I'm right in, and then I'll take months researching and compiling my thoughts to make videos detailing why I am correct. So like as much as I would like to say that I'm better than Bojack, I also put it as part of my brand to yell about why I'm correct over the internet in a more researched and thoughtful way, but still.
Absolutely. And I, for the record, I fully stand behind your Taylor Swift video.
Thank
Uh,
thank you. I had
you're
a
welcome.
I context for everybody. I have a video about why I hate Taylor Swift and why I think she's bad for feminism. I was trying on my wedding dress yesterday and I had like an argument with one of the seamstresses while I was trying on my wedding dress and she's like, "Well, I like her because this and this and this." And I just like pulled out the video and no one was prepared for me to just like spit research about postmodern feminism. But there we go. So I guess I am not better than Bojack.
Was your fiance there?
No, he wasn't. It would have been nice though. Unfortunately, he couldn't be there because it was dresses, but it would have been nice
Oh.
for someone to hold me back and not go as intense over the 24-year-old in the
Oh
dress.
no, I wouldn't have held you back. Like, or I wasn't picturing him holding you back. I was picturing him like looking at the other person, being like, "Oh no, you don't know what you just stepped into."
She's my mom was there and she was encouraging it, which I don't need it. I don't need it. It fueled the fire of it of just vomiting.
Oh yeah,
Word
I'd have done the
vomiting.
same thing if I was with somebody who was in the position you were in, and I agree with their point, I would just have fully egged them on.
I mean, I guess it made the bridal appointment more fun. Also, it felt like a scene in Bojack.
Oh
Circling
yeah, no,
back to the
that's
podcast.
that's incredible. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I I will match your saying from this episode that you vow to use more frequently, or do you use more frequently, with another, which is Todd's. Well, that one's slightly better than the absolute worst it could have gone.
It was such an underrated line.
Yeah, like Aaron Paul definitely took a couple of voice acting classes between the first and second episode. They I feel like they nailed Todd down a little bit more, and we don't. really see enough of Diane or PC in this one to really gauge one way or the other. I don't think I don't think PC would have had a cat's ringtone, but I will. I did recently watch Ruthie, and I forgot about how they have the opening number from Les Miserables, but in cat meowing.
Oh, I just the Jellicle. How long does the Jellicles continue?
Oh, that might be the only two cat themed Broadway references.
I think that we need to have a running tally for like Princess Carolyn's ringtones. Like just so we can like clock how many cat references there are in the songs or how
Uh,
many we can get through to it.
oh, for sure. I do have one more point, and we really are grasping at straws for subject matter in this episode. So, this is the second episode that Toaster Strudel is referenced, right? And so, you brought up a good point in the Google Doc where I asked, was this like an aborted running gag of like people eating his toaster strudel? And you said, well, somebody ate all of them, which means maybe he just never buys more within the course of the series. And I agree with you, but I think it is a missed opportunity on the writer's part. It could have been just as good of a runner as like Honeydew, which I
Oh
feel like Honeydew
yeah.
replaces Toaster Strudel. Where like in an alternate universe, the series finale, Nice While It Lasted, opens with Bojack in jail, and he gets like a toaster strudel in like his commissary,
Does
and
it?
he gets one. He's like, oh, it's been a while.
Does he say? I forgot. Did he say that?
No, I'm saying that they should have.
That
That
would have
would
been
have been a
so
good
good.
like bookend between the beginning and the end. And I think they did a good job with him tasting the honeydew at PC's wedding and being like, okay, this isn't so bad after all, and it like recognizes growth. But they could have done both things.
I completely missed the loss of the toaster strudel gag, and I did not realize how big it was through the first couple episodes. And yeah, you're right. It would have been really funny to see that at the end, or like it would have felt satisfying. I think that they picked the honeydew one or over the toaster strudel one because honeydew is a lot more universal on film sets. I don't know if you've ever been
Yes.
on a film set. It's everywhere. I hate it. It's the cheap melon, and it's more of a universal like hate versus I think toaster strudel might be like the thing that somebody really thought was specific, and that's why they put in. But like, I would have loved more toaster strudel. They put it in so often the first two. I don't know why they got rid of it.
I haven't worked on a ton of film sets, but Lord knows I have worked enough weddings where there's a buffet style setting where they always have the fruit salad in the bin, and especially if the wedding's outside, it just collects flies. Maybe one person goes to it, and it is like 60 to 70% honeydew in there.
It's the cheap melon. And honestly, I love honeydew more than I like cantaloupe, but it's the cheap melon that I'm tired of. I don't want to eat melon with people. Is my That's if I had an autobiography called, it would be called I don't want to eat melon with people. And I think that the fact that we keep using melon, honeydew in every fruit tray just kills me. I hate it.
When we eventually write our TV pilot, that can be either the series title or the pilot title.
I or at least like hidden within is like an homage to this one episode of our podcast.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Or it's you know how so many series will just like take an out of context line and make that the title of the episode, BoJack included. Like that'll just be a thing.
I wonder how much of these episodes are connected to the writer's experience. Because, like, the muffins in the produce section is so specific, and like a creative enough person could have figured it out. But I feel like that came out of the banality of someone's life that was writing the series, and I would love to know that story, or at least know if it was coming from somewhere.
Oh yeah, I feel like so many especially comedic series. A lot of these things are just dissecting and exploring the hangups that writers have or the irritants that they have going through the industry. it, just jumping to another episode because we're a long ways away from it and there's really not much here. But I remember in the old Sugarman place where Bojack and Diane are talking on the phone for the first time in like a year. And Diane says something about, I forget what it was. It's like a friend of hers or a colleague of hers trying to pitch a new series, and then Bojack replies with, "Oh, let me guess, it's about how funny his friends are just hanging out." It's like, oh, this is just like every other spec script they get.
It makes me feel so attacked. The amount of like scripts and pilots I've written that were just like, what if it was my life? And it kills me. It's embarrassing. I don't like being seen. And it makes me feel seen when things like that happen because it's like, great.
Well,
Thanks for
look,
making me in that.
no, we're both creatives, and I will jump right into that fire with you. Like, I took several screenwriting classes at Columbia, and yeah, that was my métier, and that was that of so many others where it's about your life and your experiences, and all of the characters are written completely in your voice, and more often than not, the protagonist dies at the end.
Every time. I got a note in class being like, Ariana, okay, decent idea. Everyone sounds like you, or at least everyone sounds like how you like to sound. Like not really like you, but how you are when you're trying to be quippy. And I'm like, I don't yeah, it's fun. I like me. And then you realize that
Yeah.
you're not likable enough over 30 pages 5 times repeated.
I mean, I think the trick that my screenwriting teacher gave me is like it's perfectly fine to base them off of the other people in your life, but when you're writing their dialogue, it's like, would they say that?
I try to do it like when I was writing more, I would be every episode or every script that I write would have a Diane in it. I'm like, what if I just like had Diane here, but like not Diane? I just use her voice. And unfortunately, it's very similar to every other little guy I'm writing. But yeah, it's so hard to write dialogue.
It
This is
is.
the side mission here that we're talking about.
It's the fucking worst. It's something I really like. It's something I do really like about. If there's one positive that I think BoJack took from Family Guy, and not even just for like the first handful of episodes with the cutaway gags, but like with the entire series, is I love Family Guy's use of naturalistic dialogue, where even if it isn't, you feel like the actors are in the room together and they're just riffing, even if it's just Seth MacFarlane as three characters and they're talking over each other. It's like it's a skill not everybody has.
Well, it's because you're hearing. It feels different from everything else, and it feels like you're actually watching these people interact. Like there was a comedian I was watching recently who's a ventriloquist who has a monkey on her hand. I think her name is Nina something. There's a movie coming out where she's a giant monkey. We'll put it in the show notes. Maybe. But she talks to her little monkey like the monkey's a person, and she laughs with it naturally, and it's crazy because it just feels like two people talking, and it's insane how that feels compelling. And it's just like, wow, I'm just watching a person talking to their hand, but it feels like I'm watching something real, and it makes me want to keep going. Oh, one last thing that one of my final things I want to talk about with the episode,
Yes.
just small, in the episode, Bojack, the Ayoko, the scammer talking to Todd,
Mm.
her neighbor, her cubicle neighbor, has a picture of the Blue Jay paparazzi that we see later on, and
Oh,
I don't know
snap.
if it comes in, but I would just like to flag that he's currently a target for scamming, and I want to know if it shows up later. I don't remember, but I want to know, and that's my one thing that I will be looking for in the future.
All right. Ari, thank you as always. I like the tone we're striking here. Like we can go off on these tangents all fucking day. People are gonna eat it up.
It's a good banter session.
It truly is. It truly is. Where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube at where oh my god, what's my name? You can find me on YouTube. My channel is Ariana Alexis, and you can find me on Instagram at 500 Days of Ari.
Damn right. Oh yeah, you put your YouTube in your like character, your person name,
I feel like
which
you did that last time, and I copied you, but I don't. I might be
I know, and then I
misremembering.
didn't do it this time. So we're fucking geniuses. I
Two
love
ships
it.
in a night.
Absolutely. Blind leading the blind. I can't think of any other similarities.